there's something beautiful about that top six, After match day 3, there's just something right about that top six. If you see your team in that image, feel free to hit the like button. Big teams only. What a weekend to be a Celtic fan. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. I'm actually really looking forward to today's video, not just because Rangers have dropped points, but because it's actually quite a positive day to be a Celtic fan. With that happening, with us winning yesterday, and us on the verge of actually making some signings, it feels like we can sit down, we can smile, and we can talk quite positively. For all the faults that's been going on behind the scenes today, let's leave that aside for a moment, and let's just talk with a smile. Yeah, let's do that, shall we? So there is that Scottish Premiership table in all of its glory after match day 3, of course, with a couple of sides not taking part this weekend due to match postponements, but Celtic sit top of the table, 3 wins from 3, 6 goals scored and 0 conceded, and next week we have the opportunity to go 9 points clear of Rangers, and it's not even September. That is huge. So next week's game, you could say to an extent the pressure's off Celtic because we've already built a wee bit of a gap, but the pressure should firmly be on Celtic as well because we can go out of sight already this season. So this derby is going to be quite interesting, and I know a lot of Celtic fans have been pessimistic heading into it, but after watching Rangers again today, there's no reason why we shouldn't be confident in our own abilities to win at Ibrox next week and to arguably finish the season before it's even started. So big weekend coming up. A lot of positivity league table-wise for Celtic fans, and that's been followed up on with some transfer news because finally Celtic are set to get their man. Because finally Celtic are set to sign Michel-Ange Balikwisha from Royal Antwerp after over a year of being linked with him and after a full summer of wondering whether he would be here. Now, I did boldly say at the start of June, I am very confident Michel-Ange Balikwisha will become a Celtic player. I maintained that confidence and I put my neck on the line by saying it constantly over the summer, and it looks as though I'm finally going to be paid back by Michel-Ange Balikwisha because he has decided to sign for Celtic. Well, at least that is the recent reports from Belgium and Sacha Tavaleri. Michel-Ange Balikwisha has decided to sign for Celtic after a meeting with the club's officials. The winger has been convinced by the project, and an agreement in principle on personal terms has also been found, and the deal is expected to be completed in the next few days. And this was the lovely photoshopped graphic that Sacha Tavaleri used. He has agreed a deal in principle. Celtic, of course, have a deal agreed with Royal Antwerp as well in regards to the package of the transfer. And we now just wait on his arrival, the completion of a medical and registration for him to potentially be part of the squad for that derby game. But Celtic have finally got their man after months now of waiting to see what the problem was with personal terms, all the rest of it. He is here, or should be here in the coming days, and I can't bloody wait to put this transfer saga behind us. So he comes in with a job to do straight away because the lack of quality in our forward line has been evident so far this season, and the pressure is on for him to deliver straight away. And the big question's already been asked. Do you throw him in for the derby game? And I think the answer to that is obviously yes, you do. And it might feel sort of sink or swim for him, but listen, we don't need to make a rash judgment after one game. I'm hoping he makes an impact, and I'm hoping we get very good vibes off him in that derby game and maybe contributes to a goal or two. But I'm not going to write him off after that if he doesn't play well. I'm certainly not going to make him out to be the next superstar if he does play well either. It's about patience and giving the guy time. But yes, I would throw him in to that game on Sunday because where else are we going to get the quality from moving forward? We need the best players in the park, and this is what he's signed up for. Now, a lot of people I've seen taking the approach of, I don't know how to feel about this, if he needed convinced to join Celtic and all that. Listen, every player that joins Celtic needs convinced. You just don't hear about it. You know, that's something that happens all the time when clubs approach agents or players and their representatives. You need to convince them on a project. This is part and parcel with transfers in the modern day. I'm not surprised to hear that. I think people are reading into it a little bit more than they'd like or they should. But I'm excited nonetheless. I'm hoping that he's good because, man, It's been a long time waiting, and I don't want it to be for nothing. Interestingly enough, Michel-Ange Balikwisha was left out of Antwerp's side today in their game against Mechelen in the Belgian Pro League, which all but confirms that he will be signing for Celtic. As you can see, he wasn't involved in the starting 11, he wasn't on the bench, he wasn't spotted at Antwerp's stadium at all for today's game, so that basically confirms that he should be on his way to Celtic, you would imagine. He's already scored a goal this season for Antwerp in the opening game, I believe, and he obviously had his struggles last year with injury, but played really, really well in the split portion of the season towards the end. So yeah, we're getting a guy that on paper should be very, very good, and hopefully that translates to his Celtic career. So yeah, thank God Almighty. Do the job, Michelle, please. And that wasn't the only transfer news that emerged last night. That's right, 2 stories in one day linking players with moves to the club, because we got a surprise update from South America linking Celtic with a new left back. Of course, it's been of heavy conversation that Celtic are still looking for a backup to Kieran Tierney, and we might have the man that that's supposed to be. South American journalist Cesar Luis Merlo, one of the bigger journalists in South America and most reputable, reported that Celtic have opened negotiations with Boca Juniors over left back Marcelo Saracchi. Boca have had a loan offer for a year with a fee and a purchase option, so an option to buy, and it's understood that if they improve on the amount in the option, the deal could be feasible. So this is a player that we haven't spoke about at all this summer. You've probably already seen this by now, of course. Has now been linked with a move to Celtic and has emerged as the backup option to Kieran Tierney, should we improve our offer that is involved in that option to buy. Now, it could be an option or an obligation. It hasn't been made clear as of yet whether or not it's an option or an obligation, but they want more money involved in that package should the transfer go through permanently. And when that happens, then we look as though it could be conversation time to go for Uruguayan Marcelo Saracchi. I'm not going to lie, my first reaction to this story was one of nerves. I was pretty worried because the South American record at Celtic hasn't been very good. It's not been good at all, and in particular the 2 most recent have been left backs. Diego Laxalt and Alexandro Bernabe both didn't work out. And I think over the years we've had very little success when it comes to the South American market. The likes of Luis Palma, who wasn't fantastic, Rafael Scheidt, who of course came from Brazil back in the day. Guys like that, it's never really worked up. And Scotland's just not an ideal place for South Americans to really blossom. The success rate is really, really low. So I met this at first with a little bit of scepticism and nerves, but it's a proven player, a player with pedigree behind him, looking for a new club. And I think as a backup to Kieran Tierney, it's probably as good as it's going to get, to be quite honest. He's also been capped 8 times for the Uruguayan national team. But aside from that, pretty well established across the clubs he's played for. Boca Juniors, which we've already mentioned, where he currently is, Galatasaray, Levante, River Plate and RB Leipzig. In fact, he's actually played at Celtic Park. He was part of the Leipzig squad that we faced in 2019 or 2018-19 in the Europa League. He played both legs of that group stage fixture, but he's been at some big clubs, got a good level of experience behind him, and honestly, this is probably the level of player you're looking for to be a backup to Kieran Tierney. He's not really, my only worry is he's not really getting into that Boca team just now, which aren't doing all that great. Might signal that he's not the highest of standards, but he's certainly a good enough standard to be back up to Tierney. I think 27 years of age as well. He's in the prime years of his career. I think he has room to get better, and I think he's reliable, and I think that's what you want mostly in a backup, isn't it? You want somebody that's reliable, and on paper he does seem reliable, and that's what I would run as the narrative for this one, to be quite honest. So, and a well enough experienced left back that's won trophies, that's played for big clubs under big pressure. Yeah, I honestly, I think this would do just fine if the money is right, we're not overpaying and it's not a disaster all round. If it's a loan first with an option to buy, that would be fantastic because you get to see if the guy's utter shite or if he's any good. But yeah, listen, it doesn't look that bad on paper. I think it looks like a solid enough option for Celtic, and he would come in to fill that role that does need filling. And I can't help but underline that point. It does need filling. And I know I sound like the bad guy, and I know people will disagree with me. They made it very clear in my video yesterday, but I will stand on my own opinion because it is my opinion. It's one man's opinion at the end of the day. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. I'm not saying I'm right. It's just my opinion. I think it's clear that Hayato Inamura would benefit from further development elsewhere and not sitting on the bench behind Kieran Tierney. And I also think it would be unfair of Inamura to be the guy that's rushed into big games in the Champions League or derbies or anything like that when he's clearly not there yet. He was fine yesterday. I was actually pretty impressed with Hayato Inamura, but I seen in him that if you put him up against bigger sides where you're not having a share of 75% of the ball, he's probably going to struggle. It looked as though he was under pressure in a few moments when somebody was running at him. He gave the ball away quite sloppily in certain moments. I think that he would benefit from development. I think that would be fair to him as well, to get him playing on a more regular basis at a good level, rather than him just sitting on the bench. So why not bring in somebody who's experienced, who can come into these big games, that's played in European football, rather than a guy that just graduated university last year? I know a lot of people are desperate to make this point that the manager's wrong because he said he's not up to standard yet, but I'm more inclined to believe what the manager, one of the most successful managers in the history of the club, has to say than people that are online saying that Inamura is just fine for the job. I don't think he is. That's just my opinion. I really don't believe that. And I seen that yesterday. I think he would be fine for the Livingstons. I think he would be fine for the Falkirks and all these sorts of games. But I don't see that as a lad that's ready to step in for an injured Kieran Tierney should the worst happen. And touch head of wood that it doesn't. But I don't see him as the guy that's ready to do that yet. And that was my appraisal of him yesterday. So I don't think there's any harm. And I see a lot of people getting annoyed that we're being linked to the left back because of Inamura's performance yesterday. And I'm like, guys, it's not the end of the world. Let the lad develop. Let him go out on loan. I'd rather that. Would you not rather it? Him getting to actually play football rather than watch Kieran Tierney every week. I don't see the issue in that. So we'll see if there's any further updates on that story today. You would assume that the fee that they're looking for would be in the region of a couple of £1 million. So we'll see where it goes, but it looks as though Celtic are finally getting a move on with around 9 days left of the transfer window. Right, that does it for today. If you've enjoyed, please hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. And I'll see you over the course of the week, in which is set to be a busy one. You would imagine. You would hope. So keep an eye out. I'll see you all next time.